another good choice. Because we've made so many good choices in our lives, but we focus on the bad choices. Why? Because the music in our lives keeps telling us to focus on the bad choices. Remember you did that? Remember where you came from? You don't have it that way. So focus on the good things that you did. I call it trusting your track record, laughing at your lack record. Because your track record says that you've overcome all of this stuff that you didn't think you were going to overcome it. When you got involved, you said, well, okay, because everybody's been telling you you can't do it. So you start to believe that. And then you say, well, I don't have what it takes to do this. Oh, let me get a sidebar, because sometimes what I think about is how we learn more from a negative role model than we do from a positive one. Because a negative role model gives us an easy map. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be like that person. A positive role model, we say, I don't think I have what it takes to do what they did. And so we hesitate, and we lose a little bit of our faith. So that's why we want to recognize it. No, I didn't think I could do that, but I did. I didn't have what it took. That was the lack record. I didn't have what it took. But now that you've gotten where you are, you can laugh. Because obviously you didn't need that. So now put that on your lack record and find a way to move it up. It's just like on the Facebook post, Maya,
yes,
she put, I had a tough 2 weeks. And I put, well, then that means that you were too strong for them to knock you down. See, take two and make it mean something else. Control your vocabulary. See, the real moral behind the story of the three little pigs is not what type of a house you build, but the fact that the storm is coming. Mm-hmm. And I got that from an Air Force chaplain. You know, and he said, I said, oh, I love that. Yeah. And when that storm ends, what's going to come? Another storm. That's what we do. We go through storms. But we sit there and we focus on the fact that we had a problem with the storm. Even when someone says, well, I'm going through some stuff right now. Through. Self-fulfilling prophecy. We have already said we're going to make it through. So why are we getting ourselves upset? Instead of, and so for you, I've been waiting to tell you, take that 2 and take it from 2 weeks to 2 days. Just reassess every 2 days. Don't have a tough 2 weeks, have a tough 2 days. And then you get down to a tough 2 hours. And then get up to a tough 2 minutes. And then get down to too much. Too much, too little, too late. I couldn't think of anything. I was on the roll. All right. So, but in fact, I always tell people, I say, I don't have a bad day. Now, as a motivational speaker, I'm not up 365, 24/7. I'm not. But I'm up more than I'm down. I'm positive more than I'm negative. I'm going forward more than I'm going backwards. And there's nothing wrong with every now and then just reframing that. Instead of going backwards, step back and take a look at your work. That's what we don't do enough of. That's the focus in the faith. We don't do enough of stepping back and taking a look at our work. Give yourself a pat on the back. You don't need to wait for somebody else to give you a pat on the back. They're not going to pat hard enough sometimes because they may be jealous. Or they may just be insecure. You don't know what it is. You don't want to have to read people's minds. Part of our stress problem is that we try to read people's minds. And we only try to read the negative. We don't try to read, oh, they're getting me a wonderful gift. I wonder why they don't like the way I'm dressed. They're probably going to stop me. And then we build this whole scene in our mind, and the person ain't even thinking about us. But we have created our own stress. We want to talk about real versus perceived stress. Because so many more people are beaten up by perceived stress than they are by real stress. So I want to show you how you can see the difference in the two. So what I want to do now is let's focus on ourselves by going around the room and introducing ourselves with this sentence. But before I do that, I heard Roanoke, so I know we got people from Virginia. We got Ecuador, did you say?
Yes.
Ecuador, we got New York. How many of you grew up in a large family? Okay, small family. Okay, all right, we'll go with it. I don't know what you in there. How many of you are the oldest child? Okay, youngest? Oldest child?
Oldest for my father, youngest for my mom.
Okay, middle child? That was me, the middle child. They came up with a syndrome for us. Y'all know that one. All right. How many of you have children?
No.
You have children? Okay. All right, and let's see, let me get 2 more categories. How many of you are have been in Charlotte more than 10 years. Going on 9, okay. All right. Now, but what did that add up to? The different perspectives in the same room. We all share in the same space and the same material, but different perspectives. So you're going to come at this from a different perspective. What perspective are you coming at it from? I look at life through the lens of being an uncle. So I come through being an uncle. So I want you to tell me what lens you're coming through as you introduce yourself. So here's how you introduce me. Hello, my name is blank blank. I approach life from the perspective of a and my favorite color is blank and Y. You want to flip a coin, or I want to do Beyonce, go to the left, to the left.
No, you go ahead. I need time to think about it.
And good, let's take a time out right there. What did she say? The same thing that everybody else. I need time to think about it. Why? Because we don't have ourselves in the forefront. If it was, let's tell me something about your kids. We can spit it out. Spit it out. But we don't put ourselves in front enough. You have to put yourself first. And a lot of times you say, well, that's kind of selfish. No, it's selfish. Once you take care of yourself, you can take care of everybody else that you want to take care of in your life. But you got to put you first, not your spouse, not your kids, not your mother, not your dogs. You can't put them first. You take care of yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually, and you will take care of them. Because the thing is, when we focus on ourselves, now it goes back to focus on you and let other people come in and focus. Think about it. When you've taken care of yourself, you attract people. People are looking for somebody who's got it going on. Networking. I'm looking for somebody who can help my business. You're in bankruptcy? Come on, let me get with you. No. no, unless you're the person who's trying to get them out of bankruptcy, But we look for people who have it going on, or at least exude that. Especially think about, when we're looking for new relationships. You're looking for something, let me find somebody who's broken, got a lot of baggage in their life. You're going to pull me down. Let me go look for that person and let's have a good relationship. I don't think so. We look for someone who's lying just like us. No, I got it together. I'm all right. All right. So, so these are the little examples of things that are going on in our life that we take for granted, which is one of the things that I got from going to that training, because I can get myself under the category of natural ability. I got all these things that we're doing, and now I've got terminology to go with them from learning the stress stuff. I'm like, oh, man, I was doing that already. You need this term for that? And so it's interesting how you have to just keep going on. But that was a commercial break for Jasmine, and now everybody's had a chance to fill this blank in. But here we go.
Hello, my name is Lawrence Wingate, and I approach life from the perspective of a leader and a father. My favorite color is blue. Blue to me represents war. War, the war can't stop the war against you all. Regardless how fast or how small, you can't stop it. War is constant. So when they get blocked one way, they'll move to another way constantly. And if all exits are blocked, they'll go over the top.
Hello, my name is Maya Williams /Payne. I approach life from the perspective of being an educator and an advisor. My favorite color is yellow because I feel like it exudes joy and happiness and lightheartedness, and that's at the core of my being who I am. I don't like to be sad, I don't like to be upset, and you'll often see me carrying around something yellow just to remind me that's who I am. I bring people joy, and it's not a job. Yellow's not a color can't be a job, but to me it's just, I don't know, it brings me peace. I like it.
My favorite color, I try to keep always dark colors. Just, I like it. I don't have any specific reason.
It's solid.
It's
Yeah.
solid. Yeah.
Or if you feel like being stressed out, I'm hiding something.
Well,
No.
So, hello, my name is Joaquina Colon, and I approach life from the perspective of being a single mother. My favorite color is blue. again, no powerful reason behind it besides the fact that I was born in September and it's my birthstone, and I love it.
Hello, my name is Lakeisha Hurd. I approach life from the perspective of being a counselor and a mother. My favorite color is purple. Why? I don't know. I just think it's a pretty color, and I just love it.
So we got the blue and the royal couch, blue and purple. So that's wonderful. Yeah.
My name is Jasmine Parker, and I approach life from the perspective of a wife, mom, and realtor. My favorite color is red, and I've always liked red. I think it's a vibrant color. It's always noticed, and I kind of look at myself as wanting to be noticed and vibrant and bringing just joy and stuff to a room when I walk in. So.
Oh, I thought that was the bell. Well, hello, my name is Sporty King. I approach life from the perspective of being an uncle. My favorite color is blue because and this is a tough one for me because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, but I protested them this year. Yeah, I couldn't follow them this year because of the, Jerry Jones not giving them the option of whether to stay in the locker room, in regards to standing for the flag. He didn't give them the option. It's like, you will go out on field and you will stand. So I had to boycott my own team. But I look wonderful in blue. I've got some new reasons to like blue in terms of how it's ever flowing and powerful. And yeah, when you think about water power, that's one of the energies that we're using. But I love the sky not being the limit, but being a good goal. Because I don't believe in limits. Limits to me are a byproduct rather than a goal. And so you can get to the spot where, okay, I can't go any further because your 100% is different every day. I give 110. Bulletin, you can only give 100. I'm word sensitive, and your 100% differs every day. So that's another reason you want to allow yourself to step back and look at your work and recognize that, you know what? I was probably, at 80%. You even hear the professional athletes, they say, I'm not at 100%. But that doesn't mean, well, I got to sit down and not play. I'm going to play to the best that I can. Okay? So here's the notes I was taking. See, what this does is it establishes, how do you see yourself? That's an important part of stress mastery, is how do you define who you are? If we were doing a networking game, or in a networking situation, one of the things that I did, and actually, Vinny, you're the only one, so that means you were unique. But always introduce yourself first name, last name. As long as we're talking about a networking group, it's always first name, last name, because there's another Vinny in the world. And if there's and if that one has a bad reputation, it could boil over to you. So it's always first name, last name when we introduce ourselves. I see wonderfully you got your name tag on your right side, which is where it should be. Most people are right-handed, so they tend to take the thing off and put it on their left. But you should have it on your right, so that when you shake hands, you have a clear line of vision up to the name tag of the person, and yours is on your left.
Yeah, I need to change it over here.
And just in case you think I made that up, which I didn't, but start to look at clothing now, at the t-shirts. You'll see that they'll have their logo. The shirts, you'll see that their logo is on the left. All t-shirts and monograms, their logo is on their left because that's them. They give you room to put your name on the right. Except, by the way, hotels in most cases. A lot of the hotels, because they own you. So they'll have their logo on the right. So that's what this does. Now, meanwhile, when I teach public speaking, and that's what I've taken this and boiled it over into this exercise, because it does have us stop and think about who we are. How do we define ourselves? And this way I was thinking about your daughter. When someone isn't good at public speaking, this gives them the chance to do what I call a tone check. See, even none of these statements do you have to be ashamed of, or can you be questioned on? You know that's your name. Even though you didn't know why it was your favorite color, you said it was your favorite color. And okay, that's part one. And how you approach life. See, so that's your tone check. Now when it's time for you to deliver information that you aren't familiar with, you want to hear yourself sound that confident. Because that's what happens in public speaking is our voice drops when we're not sure of what we're saying. But nobody can, no, this is my name. And so that's why we want to have a tone check. All of this becomes part of you focusing and pulling yourself together so that you can go forward. And last thing, I always do this part, the favorite color is, and because, just to make sure that people recognize that you have to use full sentences. So often we'll just use, well, my favorite color is blank. And then we beat up the kids because they don't have conversations. We've got to teach them how to have a full conversation. All of you who said you have kids, and even though you don't have any maternal kids, you have kids. So do I. And like I said, I'm an uncle. That's why I come from an uncle's perspective. I got 30 nieces and nephews. Right? Oh, don't be impressed. I didn't put in the work. But I put in the work now because I know how important it is for each of my nieces and nephews. And I got down to great grades for them to have a good uncle and to be able to know that they have that. That makes a difference. I'm now the patriarch in my family. And so I have to make sure they know yesterday. And so children mock and mirror adults. If you're the adult that they mock and mirror, you shouldn't have a problem with them. Let's stop getting concerned about somebody else's kid when we've got to take care of ours. And a lot of times what we do is we talk about the bad kids while the good ones are sitting there. We're in church and they're not here, and we're so busy talking about the bad ones. The good ones are like, I'm doing good stuff over here. We don't talk about them as much. So, that becomes important in our lives. It goes back to how we have to focus. Someone is always watching you. Always. You're always on camera. And that's why we all have kids. Because you may have your own maternal kids, but you may have neighbors, you have nieces and nephews. I did a lot of volunteer work in Chicago. A lot of times I'll tell people I got, over 500 kids, give or take a few. Because I volunteered for the Boys and Girls Club 25 years. I coached community league basketball for 10 years. My kids still call me coach, and now they're my friends on Fussbook and everything. I call it Fussbook because people always want to complain. And just to see how they've grown, well, guess what? Now that I've seen their growth, that adds to my growth. Gives me another way of focusing on myself. I touch these kids' lives, and I can feel good about it. So when I'm having that bad day, that bad hour, I can remember one of my kids, and I can get pumped up. That's why I can't have a whole bad day. Just have a bad hour. Have 2 bad hours in the same day, but don't have a whole bad day. It could be your last day on this earth. And why would you want to have a bad day on your last day? People are going to talk about you like a dog at the funeral because they remember the last thing that happened. All right, so it's just all of those little things that come into it. So that's what I use that exercise for. So once we get focused on ourselves, one of the things we have to recognize is that if you can't see it, it says, just because you are right doesn't mean that I'm wrong. See, it depends on whether you're on the 9 side of the 6 or the 6 side of the 9. All of our perception, no matter where we come from in terms of how we look at the world, none of us is wrong. You're coming from it as a father, I got to go educator, father, an entrepreneur, single mom, counselor, wife. All of us are right when we look at the same thing. And I did want to go over something else that I love because when I'm taking down, you also used a great deal of creativity in talking about the blueness and how it was unstoppable. Maya, you talked about yellow and being the core of who you are. See, how often do you talk about how wonderful your core is? We have to remember and hold on to it. And then you both use joy, J-O-Y, just one you. See, that's the key, and that's worth celebrating. The joy that you bring to others is you, just like you said earlier. People buy you, not your service. They buy you. So are you bringing that joy to people, and it's just one you? And that's one of those cliches that I say, yeah, you can use that one where people say there's nobody else like you, or when they want to knock down, yeah, you're unique just like everybody else in the world. But there's nobody else like you. In fact, I even say when someone says, oh man, only you would do that, I say, well good, then it's a good thing I did it. Otherwise it wouldn't get done. So that's how I see joy and celebrating being who you are. Vinny, even as you talked about black, you talked about flexibility, because you can wear it with anything. So, so if you don't have to, I don't have to have a specific reason for why I like that. In fact, that's how much of a leader I am, is that I don't need a specific reason, I like it. And sometimes you need a person that's just gonna make a decision. Should the real estate people say, should we go now? Say no. Make a decision. You're only gonna be right or right. When I was a sales manager at Wall Street Journal, I used to say to them, I'm gonna make an executive decision, I flip a coin. Heads we do this, tails we do that. And I never did 2 out of 3 either. I didn't care. Whatever it come down, okay, that's what we're going to do. All you can be is right. So it is about having that flexibility and focus on this is what I like, and I don't have to explain it sometimes. Okay? Wahina, blue, got that blue in there, and then I said, okay, I'm gonna have to say my Dallas Cowboys. But also you talked about being powerful. And you have to exude power in everything you do. A lot of times people want us to crush our power down. So what they do is they highlight our faults. And they minimize our faults and they minimize our faults. Yeah, I was right the first time. They highlight our faults, they minimize our faults. And then they broadcast our failures. See, so yeah, you have to know that you're powerful. And be willing to say it. Because a lot of people say, no, but when you said it and I told you said that, that's powerful, it's because we're not thinking about it sometimes. Say it to yourself every now and then. Lakeisha, a counselor, purple, so like I said, we had the royal couch there. And then you talked about the word pretty. And pretty is a good word. We only use it with kids sometimes, but we need to use it with ourselves. As well as using it, I guess, like an adverb that's pretty intelligent. Is that an adverb? Pretty good. Excuse me, but then you use love. And for me, love is L-O-V-E. Let ourselves value everyone. Let ourselves value everyone. Because when you know how powerful you are and how much joy you bring and how flexible you are and how great of a leader you are, then you are valuing everybody. And that's really what we need, is to recognize everybody's got a different perspective. So the best way to handle your stress is to not worry about who's right or wrong. Let's value everybody's opinion. Like we talked about earlier, you can learn more from a negative role model than from a positive one. Because you're busy saying, I'm not going to be that way. And then we make it. And then finally, Jasmine talked about red and vibrancy. And they certainly go together because, they say if you put somebody in if they have a red room in their house, then they go crazy. The colors of your wall are going to make a difference in your stress as well. And some of these things we know, we're not talking rocket science, but sometimes we just need to hear them again and put them in a spot. But you don't want to be in a red room, but vibrancy is a wonderful thing to have. And then you also use the word always. I think somebody else used the word always as well. I like to say, beware of the extremes, always and never. Because we live in a world of gray. As soon as one person does it, always and never is gone. But what we want to always do is be open to being flexible. So again, it's a vocabulary thing that I'm really conscious of listening to that as I talk to people. Because as a speaker, my gift is not speaking. My gift is listening. The number one communication skill is listening. And so you listen twice as much as you speak, so that the quality comes out when you get a chance to do your talking. And all of that becomes part of stress mastery. So since what I'm saying about this is stuff that I was doing already, and now I just got some other ways of looking at it. So far, any questions? No, we're good? Okay. This is how we tend to look at stress, if you can see. It says, life is hard, but when you fall down, pick yourself up and say, who the hell pushed me? Sometimes that's just how we want to do it, right? But you gotta, and let me ask you this: what causes stress in your life? What brings you stress? Anybody? We won't go one, just basic.
Work.
Work.
Bills, yeah.
Bills. But you know what? I'm going to a family reunion in July, and they said, send a check. And I hate putting a check in just a little envelope because I think it has no weight and it's easy to get lost. So I put one of my bills in the envelope to give it some weight. And sent it with the check. I just like, you gotta have a good time, okay? So work, bills, anything else? That was so nice of y'all not to say your kids. That's great.
And my kid not stressed.
Huh?
My son is not stressful.
Great. Because that's usually one of the answers. Like survey says, a lot of people like that. Okay, great. Okay. But what? Because and when I say stress, what makes you feel off balance? Because that's what stress is also. It's off balance. Well, and let me just go on and explain what a balance is. The key with balance is that you don't have to be 50-50. Balance is not 50-50. And we can't decide that we want to give equal time to each one of our problems. You have to give sufficient time to each one of your problems. That's how you get into balance. And that's how you'll be able to master your stress. Again, instead of managing it, we want to master it. So, how do you know that you're stressed?
I know some people notice they're stressed because their muscles are tight, and just sometimes people with grinding teeth.
Physical?
I can't stay quiet. When I'm stressed, I have to speak.
Oh, wow.
What's bothering me?
Oh, that's good.
Health issues. I have anxiety real bad when I'm stressed or when I get stressed.
Yeah, I would second that. Like, and just mentally, you won't want to do as much. Like, when I get really stressed, I won't want to go run or do yoga. I'd rather just either I try to dedicate myself to fixing the problem, or I don't want to do anything at all.
We might as well get everybody.
Well, I get upset, I'm frustrated, and I feel the angry.
Uncontrollable anger.
Yes.
Yeah, because anger, by the way, is not bad. Every emotion is real and shouldn't be denied. It's how we use it that makes the difference.
I used to be really short-tempered, and I say used to because I started seeing a biofeedback specialist, and since then I'm able to control my stress and my outburst so much more. So I can actually manage a little bit easier when I get stressed.
Cool. So then you answered the next question for us already. Because what do you do to cope with it? So it's important that we recognize, what stress is for us individually, what keeps us off balance. What do I do when I get stressed? Because we're looking for our triggers so that we can avoid them, and then that becomes what our coping skills are. And that's what we want to do.
I just think that was weird. I never felt stressed or felt angry. I've never felt it before. I guess because of the way I was raised, where we always have to, prepare for things to keep us from getting in those situations. So I was like, that's not weird.
And see, that's what we call stress mastery, because it's like proactively knowing, look, this can get me stressed. I don't want to go there, so this one I'm going to do in advance. I'm going to do my yoga. I'm going to do my exercise. I'm going to eat properly, so I don't get into that situation at all. That's right. And that was the other thing I was thinking about your daughter in terms of public speaking, because she doesn't like to speak. That's why she's nervous about.
She gets nervous about singing in front of crowds or just performing.
So her stress would be she might get sweaty from thinking about, or throat may clog up. Well, probably not as a singer, but if she had to speak, probably once she starts singing, she's great.
Get thirsty.
You get thirsty. So I was glad that you hit it right with the clenching teeth because a lot of times we don't think about those physical things that happen to us when we get stressed, because most people tend to think about the mental stuff, that the anger and the frustration and the health. But there's both mental and physical going on, because stress is when it's the real and the perceived stress disrupt our balance. But the easy sentence we have is for when demand exceeds capacity. When demand is, because we could handle any single one of those stresses one-on-one. We got it, but it's that they come all at the same time, and that's when we feel that suddenly we can't handle it. And the one thing I like to tell people, it's like, oh, I got too much on my plate. I can't handle another thing. then an hour later you're going to try to encourage a friend. You know God won't give you more than you can handle. You got to choose one of those. Either you think you got too much on your plate, or you believe that God wouldn't give you more than you can handle. And see, the way my faith goes is I believe God wouldn't give me more than I can handle. So if I've got too much on my plate, because I like to have a lot of stuff going on, I move to a platter. Just get a bigger plate. You know, and then I believe that also, if I got thing number 13 coming, you know, because I think 12 is the maximum, right? 12 disciples, 12 months in the year, 12 days of Christmas. So I think 13 is going to be over the maximum, but my faith says that 7 and 8 are going to be removed, because 7 is the number for completion, 8 for new beginnings. You have to have mental games to handle your stress. You have to have something that you believe in, that you can take yourself out of the nonsense, move away from the anger by focusing on something else. One of the things they say that you can do is do the alphabet with 2 letters at a time, putting a person's name. So A.B. Anthony Barnes, C.D. Calvin Duncan, E.F. Edward Franklin. And that, by your focusing on the 2 names and the fact that you've got to use new letters, you move that stress right out of your life, or at least out of the moment, and that becomes the truth. Okay? So real versus perceived, I mentioned that already, and because there's some real things that happen in the body, and the reason, by the way, that I was talking about your daughter, because see, that's perceived stress. See, so yeah, and just like when you say your son's, you know, he's not a big, you know, but he still has some, he may have some type of stress on you. Depends when you want him to do something. We ain't trying to get, I'm not trying to be a clinical psychologist here, right? Just throwing some new stuff out, okay? But there's always perceived and real stress. Here's real versus perceived. Real, I can't find my keys, and I'm late. Perceived, my husband's 5 minutes late. He must be in an accident. More people deal with perceived stress than they do with real stress. Maybe the husband can't find his keys. But we tend to go, it's called a negativity bias. We find something negative, and it's easy to hold on to the negativity. Partially because we don't want to be disappointed. See, if we stay positive, let me flip that. If we stay negative and then the negative thing happens, we say, see, I knew it. But if we stay positive and it doesn't happen, then we get disappointed. Oh, see. So that's why it's a natural tendency to go with the negative. So it's nothing you can do about it. You're not wrong. Just when you notice it, see if you can find a way to flip it and get yourself back to a positive mindset. So here's the test. I got 3 questions. If it's if it's real stress, it'll stay black. If it's perceived stress, it'll turn blue. So let's poll the audience, okay? Question. My boss wants the report completed tomorrow. There's no way to get it done. Real or perceived stress?
Perceived.
This is real stress because there's no way to get it done. So this is real stress. And even if you say, well, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get it done, that's stress. You know, I'm going to get it. I've only got 3 hours. Well, I'm going to figure. See, again, this is why we don't want to automatically. One of my favorite ringtones.
Sorry, that's my daughter.
Yeah, that's one. Kind of who I used it for. But then, I used to teach a life skills class in the DHS program in Chicago, and I always tell her, I said, here's the rules. You don't have to turn your phones off. I said, just put them on a song that you think I want to be interrupted by right in the middle of an important sentence. And that's my rule whenever I speak. Don't turn it off. You know, if it's a good song, we take a little groove break. Unfortunately, one of the girls had Cat Williams as her ringtone. And you know Cat Williams still haven't said a clean word. And so he called. and I'm talking, and I just kept on talking. I didn't say nothing. Next day, she got called again. Cat went, and I said, you know what? I said, here's the deal. I said, you don't have to change it. You don't have to change it or turn it off. I said, but think about this. You respond to your voice, to your ringtone. You can never say to anyone that they call you out of your name because you respond to being called a bitch. That made you answer the phone. So you can never get upset. I said, she just looked, and I said, next day she had changed the ringtone because she thought about it. You know, but I do enjoy, you know, if they have a song on, especially when I first moved to Charlotte, I was working with the Urban League doing the life skills class, and a song will come on, and you know, I have no idea what the song is, but I said, oh yeah, that's and then they say the name. I said, yeah, I love that song. Oh, Mr. King, you lying. I said, that's your song. But anyway, so even if it's a situation where it's a tight situation and it seems impossible, and you know, well, I'm going to, because especially when I do this with the Army, you know, they say no such thing as there's no way to get it done. We're gonna get it done. You know, I had an argument with one of the guys on Saturday. I said, okay, no problem. You know, no, if we got 12 hours, we're gonna get done. He's still looking at stress only as a negative thing. Even though you're going to get it done in 12 hours, it still is a stressful situation. You may be, you know, happy to do it because you like your boss or whatever, but you still put undue stress on yourself of something that's supposed to take 2 days and you get it in 12 hours.
Because military stress is used as a motivation tool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Strongly encouraged.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't think my mother-in-law likes me. Real or perceived? Perceived. Now, blue gets the square. All right. And last one is an official letter from the bank. I must have overdrawn my checking account. Real or perceived?
Perceived.
Ooh, y'all weren't confident on that. It's perceived. Why?
Because you don't know until you open it.
Yeah.
Right, see, slow down. Slow yourself down and get all the facts. That's also going to be a big deterrent in your stress. But even bigger, and another big one, a letter in this stage of technology, you're going to get an email, a phone call, a text, an overdraft fee, your account going to be frozen. You're not going to get a letter. So again, it's just really being in the moment is one of